Hello friends, this is Culture Drop. I am Galen. Today's topic is something I love very, very much, which is asking great questions in interviews. It's such a huge deal to do this for you. It's such a huge advantage for you over other candidates and for the rest of your career to come into a job interview and ask really great, juicy questions. I love this topic. People don't realize how important this is to have this in your skill set and your tool set. Interviewing for jobs is a skill set all in itself. Your experience, who you are as a candidate, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people that interview really well get good jobs, and it's something you can improve at. This is one way to improve at it. So what I'm gonna do is talk about the reasons that asking great questions is important, and then I'm gonna give you a list of really great, juicy questions to ask that are relevant regardless of the company, regardless of the role that you're applying for. Okay, so here are a few reasons that asking great questions are important. First, it gives you a lot of insight into the company and the leadership that you're about to work for. So what is their culture like? What is their leadership style like? What are their challenges? How honest are they with you about like what's going on in the company? It gives you an opportunity to learn a lot. A job interview should not be you just begging for them to give you a job. It is also an opportunity for you to interview them and learn about them and see who they are and see if it's a good fit for both of you to work there. The second reason that it's important is because it makes you stand out as a candidate a ton. I've interviewed a lot of people, and I know this from dealing with HR people and people that do hiring, is that if two candidates come in, one asks a ton of really great intelligent questions and the other one asks none, this person stands head and shoulders above the one that that doesn't ask questions. It's so important. It lets you know what kind of like employee you're going to be, that you're inquisitive, that you're curious, that you're intelligent, that you're discerning, that you're self-aware, that you want to know who you're going to be working with. It tells them so much about you as well. It just makes you stand out. And the third one, and I love this, there's some psychology involved here, but it allows you to turn the buyer into a seller. In job interviews, there's a sort of a dynamic of power authority, right? That you are there selling them on you and your skills and your experience of why they should hire you. But if you're able to kind of turn the tables on them and get them to sell their company to you and their culture to you and their leadership style to you, right? It kind of balances that sort of dynamic that's at play there. And that's not a deceptive thing to do. It's just the truth that like you also want to come in saying like, hey, I want to make sure that this company is a good fit for me as well. So why don't you tell me about your culture, right? And ask a lot of juicy questions that make it so then that they have to sell the company to you as well. And I think it's a really useful thing to be able to change hats. And so I'm gonna do this in a segment that I'm calling Changing Hats, because I want that to stick with you. I want you to remember that is part of your job as an interviewee, is to change hats and change the tables of what the dynamics are in the room. So yeah, let's change some hats. This hat is gone. What about this one? Yeah? Winter hat? This is obviously the hat that makes sense for this one. Why do I have a normal hat? The hat I'm most proud of? My Canada hat. Oh, I'm sorry, eh? Oh, I'm so sorry I was late for the hockey game. There was a moose out on the Lougheed Highway. I almost hit it with my truck. Yes, I have a giraffe hat. Why do I have such weird hats? I built like a neck out of giraffe things and cut whole eyes in it. So like the giraffe head was up here and I was really tall, but I could just see. I'm just gonna use my Chicago Cubbies hat. Okay, so I'm gonna rattle off some of my favorite questions in interviews. I'm gonna do these kind of out of order. I think there's some discretion involved in terms of when you ask these questions and in which order, right? The first question out of your mouth shouldn't be like, what's the worst thing about working here? I think like use some self-awareness around that, but here we go. How would you describe the company culture here? And how would all the rest of the people that work here describe the company culture? Of your most vocal employees, what would they say is their least favorite part about working here and your culture? In an interview, you'll want to find out who will be your direct supervisor. Hopefully they're in the room so you can ask them questions to be like, what is your leadership style? What's your communication style like? How do you like to give and receive feedback? Another great one for them is, what does it take for somebody on this team in this role to absolutely come in and crush it in this role? What are the traits? What do you value the most about somebody working on the team in terms of how they perform their role and their function, as well as how they impact everybody else on the team? Great, juicy questions. What are some medium and long-term goals for this position in the company? So where do you see this position a year from now, 3 years from now? Also, where do you see the company a year from now, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now? What are some of the biggest challenges that the company is facing right now or that this team is facing right now? I like this one a lot. I would save this for like farther on in the interview after you spend a lot of time getting to know each other, but I love it. And that is, of everything you've heard from me and my experience, what concerns or hesitation would you have about me in this role based on my experience or anything that we've talked about today? There's a lot of really great things happening in that circumstance in interviews when you're asking good questions, right? You're looking for, are they willing to be vulnerable and honest with you about their challenges and weaknesses, as well as like, how do they focus on culture? How do they talk about culture inside the organization? Can they speak intelligently about it? Is it something that they prioritize? Those are the kind of things that you really want to know about a company. While at the same time, you're learning a lot about them. You're standing out as a candidate who is self-aware and curious and right and discerning about like what kind of company you work for too. And I think that like it just shows a lot about your character when you show up doing that. Oh, puck drops at 7, don't be late, eh? Oh, just so you know, there's a semi-jackknifed on the low-heat highway, so you're gonna have to take the Queensboro Bridge to get into the Couve. Hey, we tried to go to the States, eh, but the border's closed. I was gonna go to a Boston Bruins game just so I could heckle them. I hate the Bruins, eh? You know what my least favorite hockey team is, eh? The Boston Bruins. They can rot in hell as far as I'm concerned. They're worse than the Leafs, eh? Terrible. Jay, me and my buddies are gonna go ice fishing this weekend, eh? If you wanna grab your sled, meet us on the lake. Just in case people are offended and they're Canadian, I was born in Vancouver. I'm Canadian. I can say things about Canada. Hey, don't be mad about it, eh? Let's just go get some brewskis. Solve it over a couple beers, eh? We'll get a couple Molson Ice and we'll just, we'll socially distance, eh? Because that's what people are doing now, eh?